Hi everyone, welcome to the Elendi Files, where we navigate the complexities of the global regulatory landscape of medical products. Our goal is to help make global medical product regulations accessible to everyone. So whether you're a manufacturer, intermediary, regulatory specialist, or a CEO of a MedTech startup, you're in the right place. Be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and our website, ElendiLabs.com. This is Teddy, the General Manager of ElendiLabs. At ElendiLabs, we're all about connecting clients, be it medical product manufacturers, biotech startups, with the right regulatory expertise to get products to people faster. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Atul from RAC Forge, a firm that helps to navigate the complexities of the Indian, EU, and US market. We're going to spend some time learning more about the regulation landscape in India and the health authority, CDSCO. So Atul, thanks for being here, and to kick things off, could you give us a brief introduction of what RAC Forge specializes in?
Welcome, Teddy, and thanks for inviting me to your podcast. It's really a pleasure joining your podcast. So, well, my full name is Atul Sharma Sankhyayan, and I'm CEO and founder of RAC Forge Private Limited. So, we have expertise and decades of experience in R&D, product development, product testing, and later on we entered this compliance market. So we have several years of experience in CDSO and also in US market and CE approvals. So that's what we do. And what makes us different from other consultants or other regulatory or compliance firms, that we understand the product because we have worked in development of products also, and we have worked in their testing also. So we understand that part of the regulatory authorities also. When we are not dealing with documents only, we work with those technical specification, what the regulatory authorities want from a manufacturer, or what they are asking, we can understand that better than other consultants.
Well, it's great. I didn't know that RAC Forge actually has experience also in the R&D field. You have your own products, right?
No, we don't have our own products, but we assist other companies or manufacturers in the development of products. While developing a product, the product should pass from the electrical safety also. So what we do, that we get involved in the starting when the product is still a concept, and we assist those manufacturers to develop a product which is which will more probable to pass the electrical safety testing.
Yeah, so I think you might also help them to prepare for the RA work, the registration work, right from the beginning, right? When they're designing a product, they have to sort of start preparing for product registration. So I think it's what separates RAC Forge from the rest of the consultancies in India. So in some sense, it provides end-to-end regulatory support to manufacturers. I think it's quite it's the differentiation point of RAC Forge. But I'm also wondering, because some RA consultancies also provide business analysis for their clients. For example, if company or a foreign company A wanted to enter, say, the Indian market, it had to assess the business landscape, the market size, and the potential competitors in India. So I'm wondering if RAC Forge also provides similar services, or does it have any networks that might help the manufacturers in this regard?
These services are not our, we don't have in-house services for that, but we do have networks which assist in these kind of services. So if a client approaches to us that they have to launch their product in India, so yes, we do have our alliances with some of the companies which do which have niche in these kind of services. So other than that, if foreign manufacturers wants to import their product in India, we provide various kind of services, like it's whether it is related to registering your product in India, whether it is if you want Indian representative, there are other kind of approaches where you must have a buyer in India, then only you can register your product. But we do have other segments in which we become their Indian representatives. Other than that, if a foreign manufacturer want to register their own company, if Andy Labs wants to register in India, like Andy Labs India or
So
Andy Labs.
your services also include like business
Yes.
setup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
great.
we
Yeah.
do assist in business setup.
Okay. So it really addresses the common pain points that one foreign company or foreign manufacturer might encounter when entering the Indian market. So great. It's good to know more about the services that RAC Forge provides. And then that's a great foundation. How about let's dive a bit deeper. Okay. Uh, as one may wonder when they enter the Indian market, do you have the information on the timelines and costs for medical device registration in India?
So in India, if we will start the day zero as the day we submit the application. Okay, so there are some pre-requirements. We have to prepare lots of things before we finally submit the application in CDSO. But after submission, there are, people do spread rumors to grab customers, like we will get your registration done in just in 1 month or just in 2 months. But whatever you do on the how much, whether your documents are, brilliant, they are of the market or world class level, even then the minimum timeline that is required in CDSO for getting your product registered, that is 4 to 5 months, after
4 to 5
submitting the,
months.
yeah, so after submitting the application, you must have, a waiting period of 4 to 5 months, so the product is completely registered. So that's also I'm saying that when your documents, are as per Indian MDR. So because for sure the manufacturer is not from India, so he don't understand what the Indian MDR is and what are the requirements of Indian MDR. So his documents will have certain gaps. So if you have good consultant, like what we do that, but we take documents from a more foreign manufacturer and we prepare the separate set of documents in line with Indian MDR. So chances of rejection or queries are little less than generic
Great.
cases.
You just mentioned that the usual timelines for all medical devices, regardless of their classes, are like 4 to 5 months, right?
Yeah, correct. So because
Or for
CDSO
all
work in,
classes, for all
yeah,
classes,
for
class
all classes, actually what CDSO does is CDSO work on FIFO mechanism, first in, first out.
first in, first
So
out.
yeah, so whatever the class is, your file gets addressed in minimum nearly 3 to 4 months, and they took nearly about 1 month to review your application and other documents. So in total, it takes 4 to 5 months to get registered.
What about the cost for registering each class of medical devices?
So if we go as the cost is concerned, so we will not discuss the professional fees of consultant. We will just discuss the government fees. So
Government is okay.
as per Indian MDR, the medical devices are divided into four classes: Class A, Class B, Class C, and Class D. So let's start with Class A. So if the device is a Class A medical device and it is non-sterile and non-measuring type of medical device, then you will cost nothing. The government fees is zero for that.
Zero.
You will, yeah. So you only have to pay the professional fees or consultant fees who will file your application and do those stuff for you. And other than that, if your class A medical device doesn't fall in non-sterile and non-measuring category, then the the fees will be divided for all the classes. For government fees is divided into two categories. One is site registration, your manufacturing site, the registration for that, and your product registration. So for class A medical devices, which are non-sterile and non-measuring, the site registration cost is 1000 USD, and 50 USD will be the registration cost for per product, per grouping. So if we move for class B, the site registration will be 2000 USD and per product registration will be 1000 USD. And similarly for class C and class D, we have a common fees. Like for site registration, we have 3000, whether it is class C or whether it is class D. And similarly for the product registration, we have 1500 USD per product. So for class and D, we share this common fees mechanism.
Great. What about the license validity? How long will it be valid for?
So actually the license you get for once you receive a license, from the day you received it, it will be valid for 5 years.
5
So
years.
so after 5 years, you have to do some minimum documentation in compliance with Indian MDR, and you have to retain it for next 5 years.
Great. So every 5 years. And also, I also know that the CDSCO has already adopted a fully digital platform called Sugam, right?
Yeah, Sugam, CDSCO MD online.
So all registration work is done online.
Yeah, so what we have to do is whenever you get whenever a foreign manufacturer have to register their product in India, they have two pathways. So whether they will have an Indian buyer or they will have an Indian representative, like we also offer their services. So we create an ID and we just submit all the documents as per the checklist. Already they are in CDS or Sugam portal. So we have to upload documents there and finally submit that.
So they're saying that for foreign manufacturers, even if the registration work is mostly done online, they still have to have a local entity, a local Indian.
Yeah,
Right?
correct.
To act as the local representative. Okay,
Yeah,
good. Okay.
so the thing is that any foreign manufacturer cannot enter the market directly. So first of all, for any foreign manufacturer, he should verify his document first. I think it's better to like we say, precaution is better than cure. So before before proceeding with any consultant or before paying anyone to get your product registered, you should verify some of the documents. We have 4 to 5 documents. If you have them, rest of the things can be managed, because if you have them, you must be having some of the things, and rest of the things can be prepared. So like the first thing which you should check, that if you have valid manufacturing license in the country of origin, whether foreign manufacturer is of China, US, whatever country, you should be legally allowed to manufacture that product in your country. So after that, you must be allowed to sell your product legally in your own country. So that is free sale certificate. So the first thing is manufacturing license. Second thing is free sale certificate. The other thing is your company should be ISO 13485 certified. That's also a major requirement. Two other things which are mandatory. First, you should have a CE certificate, and another thing is that you should have a free sale certificate of uh, GHTF countries. There is a
Yeah.
GSTF
Okay.
recognized countries.
Yeah.
Those are USA, Canada, Europe, Japan, or Australia. So you must have pre-sale certificate from either of them. And if you have these documents, so the next thing to check is that all of these documents should be valid on the date of application. They it shouldn't be like that they have got expired. So first thing that they should be valid, and other thing, you should have an English translation for this document. So if the documents are in Chinese or in German or in some other foreign language, that won't be catered by the CDS. So you must have the original document and its translation. Later on, these documents are notarized by in the country of origin. So if you have these documents, rest of the things can be managed by the consultant. He will guide you with the proper pathway, but you must have these documents. If you have any shortcomings in these documents, you shouldn't give money to any of
Yeah.
the consultant, because no one can register your product if you don't have these documents.
Yeah. Basically, you're saying that there is one checklist
Yeah,
for each manufacturer, foreign manufacturer, before they look for one suitable consultancy. Because if they don't have the documents on that checklist, then they don't have to find one consultancy, because they won't be eligible for registering the
yeah,
product. Yeah,
correct.
that's
These
great.
are the mandatory documents and the
Yeah,
mandatory
the
check
basic
that
requirements. Yeah.
yeah, major requirements that cannot be bypassed. You know, Rest of the things can be managed and can be prepared, but you can't prepare ISO 13485 certificate. You cannot prepare CE certificate. You cannot prepare pre-sale certificate. So these are the things which we ask our clients or foreign manufacturer to check before they. So we don't. This much of consultancy is always free at RAC Forge Private Limited. Whenever someone approaches us, we ask, we have a software. So for this checklist, so we give them the software and ask them to self assess their documentation. So if they pass with that checklist, then only we charge them for our services.
Well, it's great. So RAC Forge even developed a software just for them to self-assess.
Yeah, self-assess the product. Yeah, correct. So we do have a software for that. And so after checking this requirement that the documents are, as per the checklist, and the checklist is passed. So after that, the any foreign manufacturer is eligible to enter the Indian market. So after that, there are two cases. So one is if Indian importer or Indian buyer approaches you and they say that we want to buy product from you, and so they will be need that you register your product. And the other approach is you register your product yourself. Your sales team search for buyers in India, so you can get your product registered yourself, and later on you can sell them to Indian buyers directly. So you don't have to wait for any Indian buyer to get your product registered. So what happens that in case of first pathway, when Indian buyers approaches you to buy a product, so what happens that he has a MD42 license for Indian person, also the Indian representative, whether it is a buyer or whether it is an authorized representative, he should have a MD42 license, that is known as wholesale license. So the same way India foreign manufacturers should be legally allowed to manufacture and sell in country of origin, the Indian importer or authorized representative should be allowed legally in India to wholesale, stock, and sell the medical devices. So that license is known as MD42 license. So for Indian representative, that is the major checklist, major document he should have for importing the product in India. So if the foreign checklist and the Indian checklist are completed, then we can move forward toward the registration of product.
Oh, so you're saying that, sorry, you just mentioned there were two pathways for registering the products,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
The first one is the importer-driven route. So the importer must have um, the MD42 wholesale license
Yeah, correct.
for registering the product, and then sorry, it's not for registering the product. It's more like entering, right?
Yeah,
Entering the
entering.
market.
Yeah.
And then the second route is the market entry route. So
Sorry, I want to correct you once again.
yeah,
That it is not like that. MD42 will only be required while importing the product or entering the Indian market. It will be taken from you at the time of the Sugam application. We discussed that CDSCO have its online portal to register the products. So while registering, the foreign manufacturers, manufacturer documents are also required, and the Indian buyer documents are also needs to be uploaded there. So uh, without an Indian representative, you cannot register your product. So an Indian representative must have MD42 to get the product registered.
register.
So there are two set of documents. One are of foreign manufacturer, other are of Indian importer or whether authorized representative.
So there is two sets of documents.
Yeah, correct. So if we have both the set ready, so then only the product can be registered. So what they are the two routes you are we discussed earlier. So they are like, the first is importer driven. You have all the control in the hands of importer. If I'm,
Yeah.
if I'm a major seller in India, like, big brand in India, and I'm purchasing a product from you, and I get it registered on my name. So what happens that, after registration, the whole control is in my hand.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I will hold the market. I will decide to whom I have to sell, in what price I have to sell. The whole control is in my hand. But so what happens in that case, the first route, it is not, foreign
Recommended.
manufacturer friendly, he cannot control the market. So, so
So
what we propose, so that is proactive market entry route, the second route. So what happens that any foreign manufacturer who believes that his product is a dynamic product and he can sell his product in India. He has very good sales team. They can approach Indian buyers, Indian hospitals, and they want that they believe that they can sell the product directly in India. So if they are legally allowed, they can sell for sure. In for those manufacturers, we have this second route. What we do, that we become that Indian representative. RAC Forge Private Limited has a valid MD42 license, and what we do, that we become Indian representative for that foreign manufacturer. So after we verify the checklist, that's okay. Our documents, those are also okay. So we get that product registered in India for them. So after that, it's the choice of manufacturer that they want to sell directly from us, or what we further offer. We suggest foreign manufacturers to have a unit like, their Indian company. Like, what we can do, that after the product is registered, they assure that their product can enter the Indian borders. Okay. So after that, what they can do is they can open a Indian company
set
in
up shop.
like XYZ India. So what RAC Forge will do, the product is secure, the registration is secure, so they can invest further. So what RAC will do, they will clear the custom clearance for that foreign manufacturer because the product is registered in our name. So we clear that custom and all other legal formalities, and we sell that product to that Indian entity of the
Oh,
same manufacturer. So what happens, that the product got transferred from our control to the
to their
control of,
customer.
yeah. So they can buy you know, warehouse, and the products directly got transferred to that warehouse, and they can have full control on accounts, sales, and but they will have the full control. Only things we will be responsible for are the regulatory compliance. As soon as your product starts selling in India, there is a requirement of post-market surveillance,
Yeah,
PMS. So you
yeah,
must take the feedbacks from the customer. So what we have a agreement kind of thing, that we have agreement that our company will not sell the products to anyone else other than that Indian entity in this case. So, so in that case, we are bound that we can't sell the products to anyone in India. We just have to sell that product to that Indian entity.
yeah.
Even that's only the case if the foreign manufacturer wants that. And once the product are transferred, they will do all things. They will manage the sales, and RAC Force will manage the regulatory affairs. All the legal compliances, regulatory compliances. So we provide end-to-end support in that also. That we do have a accounting services also. So we will give a WhatsApp number to the foreign manufacturer. That will the point of contact. They will tell them that what are the taxes that needs to be paid. These are the legal formalities. So we have a full ecosystem that can support foreign manufacturer in these cases.
Great. Because yeah, I've never because I have just done an interview with an Indian consultancy before, but we didn't go that deep, right? Yeah, yeah. But
Yes.
it's amazing to see how one foreign manufacturer might operate in India, because you just said that you the foreign entity might um, rely on RAC Forge for
Yeah.
handling the RA or PMS
Yeah. Correct.
methods, and then all the foreign manufacturer has to do is just to focus on what it does in its original country or in other
Yeah.
countries, just focus on the warehousing and then the sales and
That
marketing and everything.
those
Just yeah,
those support will be provided by, if you want, we can provide you those supports also, like warehouse development. We have a variety of end-to-end
well,
support
it's
system. We
well,
work
it's
in various
yeah,
segments. Yeah.
well, it's that's a very comprehensive list of services provided by RAC Forge. Yeah, I think it will come in handy, and it offers quite flexible packages to foreign manufacturers because yeah, it has covered so many scopes of services.
Yeah.
And I also hear there is this because it's mentioned importers, and I also hear this paradox called the importer paradox, right? Could you like explain what the importer paradox is?
So actually, the thing is, the if I'm correct, that you are talking about, say, the uh, if you can elaborate, but what paradox you are mentioning about, I will be able to. There are lots of paradox, so I will
About
like to.
importers, for example, many local Indian importers,
Mhm. Mhm.
they they have like foreign entities, and then yeah, you know what I'm going to say? 'Cause, yeah,
Okay, so you want to ask that, like the same way, same thing I said, that
yeah,
the importers, the main importer, or we can say the consultant plus importer thing. They just say that we can get your product registered in that much time or this much time. They do vague promises, for vague commitments, and also they have exclusive kind of agreements with manufacturer, that you will not sell this product from other than us to anyone in India. So they what they do, that while registering the product, they do major many things like legal agreements for exclusivity, and they do vague promises. And once the foreign manufacturer sign this agreement, he's bound in a kind of cage.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I see what you mean here because you're referring to the hostage situation, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, kind of that.
you just
So
signed the agreement with them, you have everything in control in India, so
yeah,
you kind of yeah. So once there is sort of like dispute or disagreement between the two, between the client and the consultancy, then the consultancy is actually at an advantage because it has all the control, all the ownership over the product in India. Okay. No, that's why we have to avoid, we have to like um, use a consultancy which is independent of distribution in India to avoid the hostage situation.
yeah,
And I also hear that you also mentioned that importers or oil consultancies in India might overpromise, right? They say
yeah,
a lot of they use a lot of big words, or they just simply dish out the promises that cannot be kept,
fulfill.
right?
Yeah, correct, correct.
Yeah, there. I also hear that there is a common complaint that consultants might just provide templates and leave the heavy lifting to the manufacturer, right?
Yeah, that's a thing I have heard a lot, and that is a major roadblock in uh, in this field. So what happens that other than checklist, the documents which I have mentioned you, that there's a checklist uh, which we ask manufacturers to verify that well they have those documents or not. So even if they have those documents, there are other documents. There are several other documents which are for sure won't be in line with Indian MDR. How can be in line with Indian MDR? Because the manufacturer is from China, they are from Germany, so their documents will be compliant to the
The
in
local health
compliance.
authority.
Yeah, they are local regulatory authority. So what happens that most of the consultant, what they do, they provide some templates and they ask foreign manufacturer to prepare those documents. So what happens that consultant just pass over a template, and that's a major fallback where manufacturer got disturbed in from their routine work. The manufacturer routine is to manufacture the product. They have to handle foreign deals. They have to manage the accounts. They have to manage several of things in country of origin in their own country. So when a consultant pass over some templates and they ask them to prepare those documents, it's really an harassment for foreign manufacturer, and it takes lots of time for them, because first they have to understand what the document requires and then they will prepare the document. So in RSC Forge, what we believe that when we are being paid, so we also should do some work.
Yeah,
So what we do that, if these documents and other are the test reports, because test reports can't be prepared by us. That's a for sure thing. But if they have ISO 13485 485 certificate, so if they have ISO 13485, they for sure will be having the test reports. The product cannot get ISO 13485 without test reports. They cannot get CE without test reports. So why we ask only for those documents? Because we know if they have these documents, they for sure will be having the test reports. Okay, they will be having everything required to comply to those standards. So what we do, the other document like GSPR, risk analysis, and other document which are specific to Indian MDR 2017, and they have a dedicated template. So what we do, we take the documents from foreign manufacturer and we prepare them ourselves. We have our own team which handle these documentation things, and they prepare all the documents in line with Indian MDR. So when we submit, there are less chances that we can get a query, or we have a thing which won't be accepted by CDSO, because we already prepare them as per their requirements, as per the CDSO requirement. So that's what we do at RSC Forge.
Great. So I'm given to understand that RSC Forge does not really leave the manufacturer unattended if even after they pay. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's great that RSC Forge actually proactively prepares the checklist, and also I think RSC Forge also is experienced in handling complex technical queries from the regulator, right?
yeah,
It,
correct, correct.
yeah, are
So,
they really? I'm wondering
mhm.
if the CDSCO reviewers are they really strict? Are they really uh, uh, detail-minded that they might ask a lot of like tricky questions or really or questions that are really hard to answer?
Yeah, correct. So what happens that, as we can see in global regulatory affairs, what happened that in if we see in past few years, the regulatory affairs have changed tremendously. Whether it is US, whether it is Europe, or whether it is India. In US, E-Star has started. In CE, MDR 2017-745 has started. Similarly, in India, the regulatory affairs has got really strict. They go into very minute details of the product, even of labeling and every details we have mentioned in IFU, or so they go in really very um, deep details. So what happens that if the consultant or the person handling your queries, if he can connect with your product, then only he can answer the queries of an regulatory body like CDSO. So because of our experience in R&D testing, so we have a team with very vast scale of experience. We have people who do audits. We do have people, uh, in every segment of medical devices. So what happens that when a query is provided from a CDSO, so whatever the query is, if the documents are prepared by us, because so there are some cases when the person is taking queries from some taking consultancy services from another company, and they got shifted from to us. There are lots of stories like that also, that earlier people were with someone else, then that company was not catching their requirement or their registration seriously, then they get go transferred to us. But we manage that also. But the thing is that because of our experience and because of our variety of segments in which we work, so we are able to handle every kind of query or every technical query in line with the CDSO requirement. So what happens when anyone, if we think in the same way regulator think, we understand what regulator want to hear. If you are asking a question, you already have an answer in your mind, an answer that will be accepted and an answer that will be rejected. Whenever I ask a question, in it's a human tendency and human behavior that whenever we ask a question, we want to hear something. So we understand that thing, that what CDSO reviewer want to hear or want from us. So we feed them exactly what he needs, and in that way, queries get resolved faster and efficiently.
Yeah, I believe RSC Forge is very well experienced in what it does. And then, but I'm also wondering uh, if you know uh, the the most common reasons for application rejection on CDSO portal, and do you have like advice for foreign or even no Chinese manufacturers to avoid the rejection reasons?
Actually, the thing is, actually CDSO never rejects the application. If we comes to reality, so in CDSO provide ample of time and number of chances to rectify your application. So it's never like your application you submitted an application and it will straightforward be rejected by CDSO. If your consultant is good, so what happens that he can take care of your queries. If the consultant has deep knowledge of regulatory affair, he has deep knowledge of uh, technical parameters of medical devices and other things which are involved in an application. So he will be able to resolve your queries for sure, and your application will never be rejected by CDSO straightforwardly. And what happens that whenever you file an application, so there are few things which get uh, observed, which are observed by CDSO, and they raise a queries which are certain gaps which they find in the application. So what happens, they after application is registered, after near about 1 month or 2 3 months, they start reviewing your application. They raise a query in the same portal, that Sugam portal. We get a message, in the consultant or the Indian importer will receive a message in their mail that queries have been raised to your application so and so. And what we have to do is that we will log into Sugam portal. We will see which particular document have a query, and we will have nearly about 3 months to answer that query. I think that is a lot of time to answer any query. Yeah, and so anything can be anything can be handled in that much of time. So what common things that got rejected are like document is named as power of attorney, where the foreign manufacturer provides a permission to Indian importer or Indian representative that I'm providing this power to so and so company that they can represent us in India. So what happens that documents needs to be apostille. There are two type of document verification. That is, one are notarized document and other are apostille documents. So as this POA, power of attorney, is an agreement between two foreign bodies. Both are from different countries. So what CDSO demand is that this document needs to be apostille. So it's a level up than being notarized. Notarization of document is done by a regular notary in outside the courts, or any body which is authorized to notarize. But in case of apostillation, the document needs to be apostilled from embassy or first class magistrate, very high level of bureaucrats. So what happens that every manufacturer don't have such kind of relation or links that they can get that apostilled. So what we do, we recently did that for an foreign client, that was from Germany. So what we did, that we get that document apostilled in India itself, that too in less time, and the cost is also not that much that they were being asked in Germany.
Okay.
So similarly, there was another case where a Chinese manufacturer, but they had a CFG-NE, that is free sale certificate for US. So their product was registered in USA, and as I said that you must have a free sale certificate from either of those countries. So they provided us CFG-NE. So what happened that their subcategories were not listed in the CFG-NE.
Okay.
So first of all, we submitted that as it is to CDSO, but CDSO raised a query that the model you are applying are not mentioned in the documents. So we asked that Chinese manufacturer that you must get a new CFG and CFG-NE. CFG is provided to US registered company, and CFG-NE is provided to the companies which are outside from outside USA. So what happened that they hired a consultant, and the consultant asked them, very huge amount for that CFG-NE, and the process was not that much complicated, so he should ask for that much cost. So we realized that he is just taking advantage of that Chinese manufacturer because he is stuck in that situation, and that consultant was trying to take money from him. So what we did that for that foreign manufacturer. We took necessary permission from him, and we applied for CFGNE. And within, I think, 10 to 15 days, we got that new CFGNE. We filed in Sugam portal, and they got the registration done. So, and the cost which we quoted them was less than half that other consultant quoted.
Wow.
So that's the thing, there are some unethical practices in industry, and every market has those unethical segments also. So we don't do that in RAC Forge. At RAC Forge, we charge everyone generously, whether it is from India, whether it is from a foreign country. So we treat everyone with equality, and we don't charge anything, that is not generous.
So, so I see that there are so many many misconducts, okay, or malpractice in India, and you also mentioned some common reasons for failures, like proceeding without the mandatory checklist, without the mandatory documents, and also some manufacturers may get stuck with the documents or certificates that you just mentioned. They're quite professional. I don't even really totally grasp the name or the concept of it, but I know they're quite important documents, like the US, is it called CD? What?
CFGNE.
CFGNE, yeah. And so I also hear that there might be improper grouping of products, right?
Yeah, correct.
That might lead to rejection.
There's also a major area where we get queries. So what happens that lot of consultants or lot of even Indian manufacturer, as I said, that the government cost is for per grouping or per product. So per product it's not like that. If you have 4 products, you have to pay 4 times. What we do and what CDSCO would ask is that you can group your products with similar intended use, with similar material of construction, and with similar manufacturing process. They can be grouped as a single group family. We call them family, we call them system. So we can group some of the products. So what foreign manufacturer, we don't receive these requirements from foreign manufacturer, but the Indian importer, but they do that. They ask us to group everything, and they ask us to group buffalo, donkey, and horse combined. But horses can be grouped with horses, and donkeys can be grouped with donkeys, and buffalo can be grouped with buffaloes. So because they have common traits, so grouping needs to be done as per the CDSCO requirement. So earlier in earlier stages, that CDSCO was not that much strict, and things were not that much complicated, and even the wrong groupings were accepted. But right now the situation is that if your grouping is not proper, they will straightforward raise a query. You need to separate the product of different category, and you have to apply them separately. So what we do, that we at the our first approach is that we guide the manufacturer and the importer with the correct grouping that should be ideally. So it's their choice that they want to proceed with that, or in some of the cases they ask us to combine all the different products also, and proceed in that way. But later on stages, we charge double the fees in those cases, because when we have suggested that you need to proceed in that way, and they don't agree to what we said, and they said no, combine that. And later on what happened, that they have to separate those documents, separate those products, and they have to file them.
Yeah, they should have
So
listened.
Yeah, so we in that cases we warn them in advance that if this will be the case, we will charge again for this different application, this separate
Sure.
application. So these are the things which we no we where we get major of queries.
Thank you, Adu. These are some very incredibly practical insights and even some case sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your boots on the ground perspective with us today. For everyone listening or reading the transcript, we'll be featuring RAC Forge as a value specialist firm on our platform. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you again on the platform. If you haven't checked our website, please head to ElendiLabs.com. Be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn.
Sure. Thanks, Teddy. It was a really a pleasure connecting with you.
And the recording.